My name's Dave DeBow, founder of MoneyPartnerFormula.com, and this show is built for everyday real estate investors who are actively doing deals and looking to scale using other people's money. So if you're an active real estate investor and you want to get featured on this show to talk about your own real estate and capital raising experiences, then just go to daveinterviewsyou.com. Now let's get rolling with this episode, and remember to subscribe for daily interview content. Hey, welcome back, folks. Have you ever heard of residential assisted living? You've probably heard of old age folks or seniors living facilities, that kind of thing. Well, today's special guest is not only investing heavily in residential assisted living facilities, he's also a doctor. He's also in the Air Force. He's also a full-time dad with two little kids, the youngest one being 13 days old at the time of this recording. So, Dr. Alex Schloe, welcome to the show. Great to have you.
Dave, thank you. Yeah, well, you made me sound way more impressive than I actually am. But the thing I'm most proud of definitely is the dad. Yeah, we just had our second born 13 days ago, which is crazy, and really grateful for the opportunity and the time to have some paternity leave and be with my son Jack, who's 3.5, and our new baby Owen, and spend some time with the family. So glad the podcast was able to work out. And like I said, thank you so much for having me on the show.
My pleasure. So I don't see too many really bad big bags under your eyes just yet. You must be holding up
Yeah.
all right. So that's awesome.
Uh,
So Alex, tell me a little bit about, first of all, what got you into real estate in the first place? Like a lot of doctors don't have time for real estate, don't think they've have time for it. What sparked your interest in this?
Yeah, absolutely, Dave. Well, I was always that kid that was looking at like the old packets of houses that were for sale that you could get at the grocery store. I was always the kid that was looking at that. And my family, I grew up from humble beginnings. I'll put it that way. And I really saw the value of hard work, especially in my father. And when I was graduating college, I was with my dad, and we were touring some apartments in Richmond, Virginia. That's where I went to med school at the Medical College of Virginia. And my dad was like, "Hey, have you thought about taking the signing bonus that you're getting from the Air Force and buying a property with it and fixing it up?" I did what most kids do, and I didn't listen to my dad, but he put that bug in my ear. And I really wish I did. And where I was looking at would have been a great investment. But that bug was put in my ear from the beginning of like, hey, consider real estate investing. And so I knew I made a mistake initially after about a year or so. And so I ended up getting some roommates, and we rented out an apartment, split rent, and saved some money up while I was in medical school with the little Air Force stipend. And then I knew as soon as I got into residency, it was time to start investing in real estate. So I bought a live-in flip in Florida. I did residency at Eglin Air Force Base near Destin, Florida, which is amazing. And we bought a home before the craze of COVID and everything else, and so we were really fortunate that appreciated a lot. And I got a taste of the real estate bug then. And then we bought some short-term rentals with a couple partners, and then we've pivoted to the residential assisted living space. And now here in Colorado Springs, we also house hack our basement as well, which covers our mortgage, taxes, and insurance. And so when folks say like, "Hey, I can't house hack," there's a lot of different ways to house hack. And even as a attending physician, I still house hack my home, and pretty much, like I said, covers mortgage, taxes, and insurance. So then we're able to funnel that savings into other investment opportunities as well. And then I've also invested in a mobile home park syndication, was a small limited partner in a boutique hotel as well. Sorry, a small general partner in a boutique hotel as well in Tennessee. So kind of all over the place, but our main focus now and into the future is residential assisted living. Huge opportunity there.
So why is that become your new focus?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm in a mastermind, and as we talked about before the podcast, I think community is everything. That information's out there, but the implementation is the hard part. And so I think that's what mastermind communities run well really offers, that accountability. And so I'm in a mastermind called the War Room Mastermind, which is for military folks. And my now two partners for assisted living, one of them we met in there, and we just started buying assisted living. Luke, one of my partners, bought an assisted living home initially and was telling us all about it. And we're like, "Hey, this sounds really interesting." And ironically, my first actual job was working in an assisted living home back when I was like 13 or 14 in Virginia, making like $3 an hour,
Yeah.
doing everything, cooking and maintenance and all the above. And I saw there, as well as throughout my medical career, how kind of, frankly, poor living conditions these folks are living in, and how the caregiver ratios were like one caregiver to 20 or 30 residents. And it was just a factory basically of folks. And so residential assisted living is a lot different. It's typically a residential home that's been converted to an assisted living home. Oftentimes you have 10 to 16 residents or so. Typically caregiver ratios are about 1 to 5 or 1 to 8. So a lot more higher quality of care in a home-like environment that exists. And not to mention, there's 77 million baby boomers that are aging into assisted living, and they're
Mhm.
projecting a 1.3 million bed shortage by
Wow.
2029. So there's a lot of opportunity, and we're going to hit a point around 2040 where age of 65 and over is going to be the largest demographic in terms of the United States. About 42% of folks are going to be 65 and over by 2040. So there's a huge demand for these assisted living homes, and so kind of putting all that together, really realize this is a great opportunity from an investment perspective, just simple supply demand, but this is a great opportunity to also change lives and buy these A-class homes that we can provide high quality care for these residents who are at the end of life. So really cool opportunity, and that's what's driven us to that. And then we can talk more later about kind of some educational stuff we've been working on as well. But that's a
I'm
long-winded
not sure.
answer for your question.
We'll talk
Yeah,
more about
yeah,
the actual
yeah,
residential assisted living if you don't mind. So,
absolutely.
okay. So that was a lot of information. That's great.
Yeah.
So, um, you're mentioning for people at end of life.
Mhm.
Is this full on care, or is this kind of the step before, a couple of steps before people need full on care? Give
Yeah.
me paint
Yeah.
us a picture of what the patients or tenants, I'm not sure, clients,
Yeah.
guests, whatever you call them,
Residents.
might be.
Yep. All
Yeah,
the above. Yeah.
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 What do
Great
they look
question,
like?
Dave. Well,
Yeah.
there's kind of full spectrum in terms of assisted living care. So, kind of the initial would be independent living. That's typically folks 65 and older who still can perform their activities of daily living and live by themselves. So, that'd be your independent living. Next step up would be residential assisted living, which is going to
So
be
that's you guys. That's what you're
that's
focusing on.
us. Yeah,
Yeah.
partly. Yeah, part of some of our homes are residential assisted living, and that's typically folks who need assistance with activities of daily living, like bathing, toileting, food preparation, those sorts of things. So typically, folks that need help with one or more of those will be in an assisted living home. From a medical care perspective, there's not a whole ton of medical care that's done in these assisted living homes, and it's not a nursing home, so
Mhm.
not terribly medically complex, but they need assistance with activities of daily living. Then, as we're kind of continuing on the spectrum, then we would hit more nursing home level care. So that's a little bit more in-depth medical care, and there's also memory care homes, which are for patients who have dementia, which we're seeing a huge spike in dementia and Alzheimer patients now and into the future as well as more and more folks are aging. We do have a memory care home, and we're under contract on another, and then we have 3 assisted living homes. So kind of across the spectrum there in terms of our investments at this point.
Mhm.
But yeah, pretty broad spectrum. And then there's some other homes like ventilator homes, sober living homes, behavioral homes for like kids with disabilities or adults with disabilities. There's a lot of other kind of asset classes within the umbrella of assisted living itself.
Very cool. I heard too there, you said silver living homes,
Oh, sorry, sober living homes.
sober living
Sober
homes. All
living.
right.
Yeah.
Sober living homes. And then what was the other one after that?
Sober living, behavioral care, so kids with disabilities or adults
Yeah.
with disabilities. There's transitional living homes, so like for the homeless population, some of those serve veteran populations
That's,
as
yeah.
well. There's ventilator homes for folks who are on ventilators long term, who don't necessarily need the care that a hospital would provide. There's ventilator homes, which are typically like a long term care facility, and
Mhm.
different variations of that as well. We saw those kind of come into more prominence during the pandemic as
Mhm.
more and more folks were on ventilators long term and didn't necessarily need hospital level care. They went to these facilities, long term care facilities or ventilator homes, and received care there if they weren't as complex as needing hospital care.
Okay, so there's a lot of demand, um, definitely a lot of need for these kind of facilities. Maybe from an investment or a business perspective, what does the business model look like? What kind of potential revenue or profits could an operator or an investor be looking at by being involved in something like this? Where's, where's the bang for the buck for somebody to go, hey, that sounds like something I should look into more?
Absolutely, Dave. Yeah, there's kind of two different ways you can look at investing in assisted living. Of course, both actively and passively, right? Which we all are familiar with that. But there's also what we call a lease to operator model, or owning the real estate and the operation model. So
Mm.
we predominantly focus in the lease to operator model. As you mentioned before, I'm a Air Force physician, dad, husband. I don't have time to like operate and take care of these residents. So we lease our assisted living homes to operators who we've vetted, and then they provide all the day-to-day care of the residents. And it's just a commercial lease. That's the cash flow is pretty good. For example, our memory care home in Arizona, that's probably our best performing asset right now. We purchased that for 975,000. It's in Arizona, and we have a lease for 11,000 with a 3% annual increase. We're paying investors 10% simple interest on $200,000, and we're still cash flowing about $3,800 per month on that home. So this leased operator model, it's a lot of work to find the right operators, and it's a lot of work to find the right homes and so forth that are ready to be licensed for assisted living. But once you get it set up and a good operator in place, these cash flow more than short-term rentals with way
Mm.
less work, as long as you have a good operator. And that's your kind of linchpin from that perspective, is having a good operator. For
So very,
owning the
very,
real estate.
very sorry, just to
Yeah,
jump
sorry.
in here on
Absolutely, Dave.
this. So yeah, walk me through that. What is, in that case, the memory care home? What does that property look like?
Sure.
$900,000. How many rooms? What did you have to do to get it set up for your operator? Did you find the operator first and go look for the property that was going to be the right fit for them, or vice versa? Just walk me through the scenario, if you would.
Absolutely. Yeah. So this was our third home, I believe, that we purchased. And so typically when you're looking at purchasing one of these homes, some things that are important from a house perspective is oftentimes you want it to be single story ranch level home, as many bedrooms and bathrooms as you can have, because the more bedrooms and bathrooms you have, the more private rooms you can have, which charge more.
Mhm.
And again, I don't know if I mentioned this, but kind of the median that you can charge for assisted living across the country is $4,500 per month for regular residential assisted living. For memory care for this home, for example, they're able to charge $8,000 to
Yeah.
$8,500 per month per resident, and there's 10 residents in the home. So you can do the math there. They can be quite profitable. But typically, ranch level home, as many bedrooms and bathrooms as you can have. They do need to be handicap accessible, at least one handicap accessible shower, depending on your locality. Typically, need to have grab bars in the house, wheelchair ramp, those sorts of things as well. It's really important. And all these things differ based off what locality you're investing in. So it's definitely important to check with your state and check with your locality. But so this house that we bought, going back to it, $975,000, 8 bedrooms, 4 baths, and it's about 3,200 square feet. Typically, a good rule of thumb is you want to have about 300 square feet per resident. So
Mm.
if A will be licensed for 10, 3,000 square feet is good to have, and that's typically what will be a comfortable amount of square footage per resident. And so that's what the house is set up to look like. This was already operating as a residential assisted
Oh,
living
wow.
home, but they only had a few residents. And so, long story short, it was a seller finance deal off market. They only had a few residents operating as a regular residential assisted living home. I think they had 6 or 7 out of the 10 when we took over. And then we worked with our realtor to find an operator. There's specific realtors that specialize in assisted living, which is really helpful to have, because they have a great Rolodex of folks and operators and contractors and so forth, and they also know those regulations. And then they put us in touch with some operators, and we interviewed them, and we ended up picking this memory care operator who's working with a franchise, who we've really enjoyed the experience with, and we're working with this franchise now currently to try and expand into some other states as well. And then they came in and they transitioned that home as patients passed away, from just regular residential assisted living to memory care, and then now it's just operating as a memory care home going forward.
So
So
just out of curiosity, what was happening with the previous operator that they had such low occupancy if there's such a high
yeah.
demand?
Yeah, great question. A lot of these folks that are owning and operating these homes are mom and pop investors who are ready to retire.
Hmm.
And so that's the big thing that we're seeing is a lot of homes. These folks are ready to retire. They don't want to put in the effort to
Mhm.
to fill the home
They're
up. It does
they're
take
getting burnt out. They're just about
ex,
ready
yeah.
to move in
Yeah,
themselves, kind of.
exactly right. Yeah, they're burnt out just like every other medical professional is right now too. And
Yeah.
and so they're ready to sell. So that's the biggest thing that we're seeing. Same with this situation. He was like, "Hey, I'm just ready," and
Yeah,
so he
yeah,
offered
yeah.
seller financing, so he's still getting steady cash flow every month without having to do anything in terms of care of residents. And so that's what we found with some other deals as well. Is it's a great opportunity as we see this wealth transfer and as we see these mom and pop operators and businesses getting ready to close up. There's a great opportunity to come in and buy these homes under seller financing because a lot of them have been operating for a long time and they have significant equity in their home. And so it's a great opportunity too to get in while, even with interest rates being as high as they are. So
Very,
we
very
just
cool.
closed one last Friday as well. Same situation. We were able to get seller financing 6%, which is way better than the 8.65 that we were getting from our commercial lenders. So there's opportunity out there. You just have to find it.
Yeah, and I would imagine some of these properties that are operated are a little on the rundown side. They aren't
Yeah.
quite up to snuff. They could
Yeah.
use some upgrades and whatnot. So,
Yeah.
have you started one of these from scratch, like just buying a house and then converting
Mhm.
it into an assisted living facility as well?
Yeah, we're working on that right now on a
Nice.
house in South Carolina in Greenville. And it's been a challenge. There's a lot that goes into it with sprinkler systems and grab
Mhm.
bars and all these other things as well. And we're adding a couple bedrooms to that home, so it's been a bit challenging. That one hasn't closed yet. We're going to close in a couple weeks on that home, and then it's really off to the races in terms of getting that renovated. We're working with an architect team that's helpful from that perspective. And then we have a large network of folks who are also doing this, and so we've got a lot of experience chatting with them, and partnered with an operator who's been investing for the last 10 years in Wisconsin doing a renovation right now. So we've had some experience in that space too. But for the most part, all the ones that we've bought have been either previously operating or they're vacant, but they were previously operating as an assisted living home. So the renovations have been more minimal, just things here and there, sprinkler systems, and kind of updating the home.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. So obviously you're a big fan of this asset class. Nothing is ever 100% sunshine and flowers. So we see some of the benefits are huge, huge, huge supply demand imbalance. I think you said
Mhm.
we're going to be short 1.3 million beds in the not too distant future.
Yeah.
So supply and demand's in your favor. Very, very profitable opportunity, whether you're the operator or you're just leasing your property to an operator, which
Hmm.
sounds like a really smart idea, and let them deal with
Yeah.
all the stuff.
Yep.
Very great way to create much higher than average cash flow. What are some of the downsides to this? Let's look at number one downsides. If you're an active operator, which you guys aren't, but if you were, if
Hmm.
somebody wanted to be and make that $4,500 to $8,000 a month per guest. And then number two, the pain in the ass side of things for you guys right now as the lease
Yeah.
operators. Yeah.
Yeah, great question. So, owning the real estate and operating the business, it would not be unusual to cash flow ten to $15,000 per month per house once you get that operated and running well, which we didn't hit on. So, huge cash flow increased potential if you also own the operations. But of course, you're dealing with all the stressors that go into taking care of these residents every day. I would say, honestly, probably the biggest frustration for owning and operating is going to be hiring good caregivers and good
Mhm.
staff and retaining them.
Keeping them. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's definitely the biggest thing there from that perspective. And then initially getting the home license can be tricky as states are figuring out, hey, how do we best kind of regulate this going forward? Because it's relatively new in terms of residential assisted living. So those are the two biggest things from that perspective. The biggest pains that we've had is one, if you're leasing to an operator, you are fully reliant on that operator. So the
Yeah.
operator is definitely the linchpin of the whole thing. And we have gotten burned by a bad operator that we ended up needing to evict, and there was some
Because it's
damage
not
done
just
to the
evicting
house.
him, it's evicting all of their
Yeah,
patients, like all of these senior folks. Yeah.
yeah, luckily, so this home was a behavioral care home, and it's a long story, Dave. But basically, the operator was unable to be licensed. So luckily, the
Yeah.
house was vacant, but she was unable to obtain a license. So then she wasn't making any money to pay us, and so that was a frustrating process, and a longer story we could have on another podcast probably. But But that's the key thing is you
Yeah.
really have to make sure you're vetting the operator well if you're doing the leased operator model. And so that does take some time, multiple interviews, trying to get as much data as you can, really looking at financial statements. Hey, do they have a cash reserve position to kind of weather the storm? We haven't seen this as much with assisted living because, again, you're not going to evict a bunch of seniors. And typically those folks are more experienced than some of these transitional living or sober living homes. But that's something to keep in mind. It's a lot easier to start a transitional living, sober living, behavioral home than it is to start a residential assisted living home for elderly care. There's just a lot more regulations that go into residential assisted living. So
Right.
that's a safer asset class in terms of operator perspective. And we learned that the hard way, and those things happen. But again, it does come back down to, finding good people, which is the hardest part probably in real estate investing as a whole if it's more
And in
active.
life
So
in general, I think.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah,
So,
yeah.
Alex, yeah, you're a wealth of information. I understand you guys have some resources and stuff like that for folks who are kind of interested in dipping their toe into this, finding out a little bit more about residential assisted living facilities. If people want to connect with you and find out more about this asset class, where should they go?
Absolutely, Dave. Well, we created a 10-step guide to launch your first or next assisted living home. You can find that at openrangeassistedliving.com. I'll send you the link as well if you're able to put that in the show notes. Folks can also just reach out to me in any way. You can find me on any kind of social media. My name is rare, so I'm the only Alex Schloe I know that exists. So feel free to reach out there as well. So yeah, I really appreciate it.
Awesome. Well, thanks very much and keep up the good work with what you're doing with
Yeah.
your family, your work as a doctor, and your work as a real estate investor as well. Thanks for being on the
Thanks,
show,
Dave.
Alex. All right.
Really appreciate it. Thank you.
Take care, everybody, and we'll see you on the next episode. Hey there, I really hope you enjoyed that episode. And as always, if you want to listen to more daily interview content, make sure you subscribe. And if you're an active real estate investor and you're doing deals and you'd like to get featured on this show, then just head over to daveinterviewyou.com. Now, at moneypartnerformula.com, we help real estate investors to create a process for predictably getting capital so they can do more deals without relying on hard money lenders or the banks. We do this by building them a private capital marketing system. Now, if you want help turning yourself into a big money capital attraction machine, then book a call with our team to see how we can help. Just visit moneypartnerformula.com to find out more. All right, take care, and we'll see you on the next interview.